I don't usually tread on politics, but every other gaming channel is talking about this, so I may as well give my thoughts on it as well. What is net neutrality? Is it a noble cause against corporatism, or does it enable corporatism? Does it make internet access cheaper, or more expensive? Does it make internet speeds faster or slower? The truth hasn't been made obvious, and after researching the topic, I would say that net neutrality is in fact bad for customers and actually creates monopolies by hurting small ISPs and gives unfair advantages to companies like Netflix. But I get it. I understand why net neutrality is so popular. Up until recently, I was a supporter of net neutrality myself. If someone else had uploaded a video against net neutrality, I might have just clicked on it, disliked, and left a mean comment without even considering their argument, as I expect many to do here. However, I and many of you were not told all the facts. This is because even though most people don't trust the mainstream media, it is still their main source of information. So I'll try my best to present these facts to you because I think it can completely change how you understand the internet. To take a page from the Ackman's book, what I want you to do right now is go to the comment section, type what you thought about net neutrality before watching this video, and in a second paragraph, type what you think about it after watching this video. So, enough of the introduction, let's get on with it. First, we should define net neutrality. Net neutrality is the principle that internet service providers, I'll just call them ISPs, should treat all data on the internet the same. This means they cannot charge more for access to certain sites or services, and they cannot intentionally give you slower access to certain sites or services, and they cannot block certain sites or services either. Admittedly, net neutrality sounds good, and you're probably thinking I'm crazy for being opposed to this, but net neutrality is awfully broad, and you're gonna see why it only sounds good. But before we go on any further, I want to talk about this picture that's been blowing up and is being used by net neutrality supporters. It's showing some data packages for a Portuguese company's mobile plans, and yeah, if you were to pay for all of those packages on top of the €15 base plan, that would be a ridiculous sum of money. But this is an unfair comparison because Portugal is not as prosperous as most Western countries. If you Google why is Portugal, the first suggested result is literally why is Portugal so poor. Adding to that, Portugal has some very high tax rates. Someone in Portugal who earns 11.7 thousand euros annually gets taxed for 28.5% of their income. Here in Australia, that is equivalent to earning $18.2 thousand annually, of which 0% is taxed. For my American viewers, that's almost only $14,000 annually, which if you're married, only 10% is taxable. Second off, mobile plans are more expensive than broadband, I thought this was common knowledge. This Portuguese mobile plan shouldn't be used to defend net neutrality in the United States. Moving on, when people hear that an ISP intentionally slows access to a site, they instinctively interpret slowing it as throttling. If you don't know what throttling is, it's when an ISP intentionally stops your connection from hitting the speed you paid for. However, easily the more common method of slowing your access to a site is the use of lanes. Lanes are basically how the transportation of data is being explained these days, and lanes is such a misleading term because data or bandwidth, it's not sorted into lanes. A block of bandwidth allocation isn't a physical thing. It doesn't work like a road. It is a percentage of the ISP's maximum possible bandwidth output. Bandwidth is essentially what determines internet speed, and these so-called lanes have differing amounts of them, low being low speed and high being high speed. Bandwidths are frequencies, frequencies are power, and power costs money. Since a fast lane uses more bandwidth than a slow lane, using the fast lanes will cost more money. As a result, a website owner could actually pay an ISP to give them access to a fast lane. Wikipedia, for instance, isn't the sort of site that would benefit from fast lanes, so Wikipedia doesn't pay for access to the fast lanes. But a site like Netflix would definitely benefit from fast lanes, so depending on the ISP, of course they would pay for them. Net neutrality, by definition, seeks to eliminate the concept of lanes since it treats all data equally. Therefore, companies can't buy off any bandwidth. However, I think that the Wikipedia Netflix example shows that not all data is equal. and you shouldn't make equal what is by nature unequal. More importantly, since net neutrality means that companies aren't allowed to pay ISPs to give them access to the more expensive fast lanes, guess who covers the cost instead? Customers. As a result, the only people who benefit from net neutrality are media companies like Netflix. Furthermore, net neutrality hurts small ISPs, and not necessarily because adhering to them just isn't economical, but filing out reports to prove that they are abiding by net neutrality costs them a lot of money. If net neutrality stuck around long enough to wipe small ISPs off the map, the bigger ISPs who could afford to take the hit would just move in and replace them. Yeah, getting rid of competition doesn't sound like a free market to me. What makes it also worthless is that unfair throttling was already illegal before net neutrality was introduced. Comcast got caught throttling their broadband before the introduction of net neutrality, and they were fined $16 million. AT&T got caught throttling their mobile plans before the introduction of net neutrality, and they were fined $100 million. You think throttling your speeds for no reason is bad? How about cutting your internet off altogether for no reason? Verzion got caught unjustifiably terminating broadband plans before the introduction of net neutrality, and they had to reimburse their customers $1 million. America has always had some form of net neutrality, but the net neutrality regulations introduced in 2015 are just anti-free market and anti-consumer. Alright, so I covered throttling and costs simultaneously. I guess all we have left to talk about is the blocking of access to certain sites. I think everyone knows that America is an oligarchy. That's why Wall Street gets bailed out by the federal government instead of fixing their own problems. Corporatism reigns supreme in America, so big corporations collude with the government. With that in mind, I'm not sure that net neutrality has had any effect on what websites are blocked or not, because whatever these companies have in mind is probably passed on to Congress anyways. So, how would I do net neutrality? Because I'm not opposed to the concept of net neutrality, it's just that the 2015 realization of it was bad. This first point applies to not just the internet and net neutrality, but every instance where a company has profited from the damages they've caused. If a company is fined for dodgy stuff like throttling, the fine should be greater than the profit they made from doing that dodgy stuff. That way, they would actually be discouraged from doing said dodgy stuff. At the moment, court cases are total jokes. When a company gets fined, the fines are so insignificant that the company still turns a profit from their crimes, and so they continue to do said crimes. It's mental that AT&T only got fined $100 million for unfair throttling. Secondly, pricing. The prices for each package in your plan should be relative to how much bandwidth they use. There's no way that Gmail uses as much of my internet as Netflix does, so don't price it like it does. And lastly, blocking websites. The only websites that should be blocked are pedo stuff, sites that sell illegal services and goods, and of course, every YouTube channel except for mine, cause Dandy's all you need, baby. To conclude, what are you guys even complaining about? Absolutely nothing has gotten worse ever since the repeal of net neutrality, and there was nothing wrong with the internet before net neutrality. People just love to get melodramatic about pointless issues because the media told them to get melodramatic about them. Did a lack of net neutrality magically begin affecting you only after you learnt about it? That's not how problems manifest, that's how politicians get votes. People never go crazy about stuff that actually matters. People just become what Lenin referred to as useful idiots. That's why you get people like the anti-free market B-Dobbins, who thinks that Russia is fighting a meme war against the West, and then went on to defend Hillary Clinton, in spite of how hard she's been exposed. Because at least she supports net neutrality. Give me a break. If that's all it takes to redeem someone, then anyone's an angel. We have ourselves two dandy discussions of the day today. First one you already know. What did you think about net neutrality before and after watching this video? And second being, is B-Dobbins FTW secretly a communist? Leave your responses in the comments below. This is Dandy, telling you why net neutrality isn't dandy. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas. Peace.